And I'll tell you this, the biggest thing is email. So if you're an advisor that wants to scale and you're managing your own email, you are 10 steps behind.
All the things that your people spend doing day to day that are administrative in nature, all of that stuff's getting automated. It's going to be even more paramount in the future that you're looking for people who know how to create and make great relationships.
And that's one thing most advisors don't do, is they don't work on their business, they work in their business. And I've always said this, it's like working on a car with the engine running. You have to shut the car down in order to work on it.
All right, Carm, this is our fifth and final episode on our scaling, or I guess just our thoughts on scaling and how we've scaled our organizations. This one in particular, I love this topic. It's the who, not how, as Dan Sullivan would say, topic. And one of the secrets as an entrepreneur, or hacks as an entrepreneur, is figuring out what you want done and then figuring out the very best person you can afford to do it. All too often, entrepreneurs say, oh, I want to do this, and think they need to do it. One. Two, that the person closest to them should do it, that's easy enough to assign it to, which is a mistake. And three, they think that, well, they're going to get it done without paying much money for it. But I've actually found that if you want to really grow as an entrepreneur and be successful, you identify what you need, you find the very best person you can afford, and it's going to cost you money. And that's how you move the needle on your goals and vision.
Yes, sir. A couple of reframes that I could kind of introduce here is when we talk about who, not how, and again, Dan Sullivan, Dr. Ben Hardy wrote a great book, and I do recommend it. When you're, as an entrepreneur, you're faced with an issue, opportunity, concern that you need help with, your first filter should be, and it's a who, not how. Do I need to figure out how to do this? Or do I need to find a who that can do this? And you'll find out probably 9+ times out of 10, it's finding a who. If you really know what your unique abilities, your organization, it's mostly going to be who's. Right, so that's really kind of the I would say the filter. And the other reframe is finding a right who costs you nothing. Okay, there's no cost associated with finding the right who.
Let's be real, it does cost you time.
It's an investment. So the money technically is not a cost. It's an investment to further scale, because no one scales on their own, right? It does cost time for sure to bring on a who, to even just to go over the plan. You know, we're going to get into a kind of like what your ideal team looks like. And ideally it wouldn't be you doing that. It'd be a member of your team where you're coming up with the vision as a visionary, and you're implementing, or you're giving the people on your team the power to work with the who. Like, for example, we're going through a full rebrand today. My internal marketing person's the rebrand company. I'm only brought the things I need to approve. But the day-to-day, and it's a big lift. We've been in it 4 months now. It's a lot of her time.
There's a lot you need to rebrand about yourself, Carm.
I know, I'm trying. Listen, I can only fix a certain amount a day. I'm just trying to get up to you, Daren. It's just pretty hard.
For those who don't know, when Carm and I aren't on camera, like 90% of the conversation is us ripping on each other. So
95.
Yeah.
But the 5 is gold. The 5% out of that is absolute gold. In fact, we should record our phone calls and just put podcast episodes out of us, because you'll laugh during the 95, and then the 5 will be a tidbit that you can actually use. So our goal is to filter out the 95 today and just and give you the 5.
So who's, not how. So it's identifying those who's and the right people to help you achieve the goal or the objective that you want. What's a secret, Carm, you've had for finding those people, right? Because I think that's the golden sauce. Like, great, but how do I find them? Where do I look?
So I've been hiring for 23 years, I believe. Only one person resigned, and that was 4 or 5 months ago, and he was only here for 5 weeks. It was turned out to be a filler for him, but he did mess up my average, which I'm pretty upset about. But
just keeping you humble, man.
I know, but I had a perfect batting average. Anywho,
it's a hard task for you, but whatever.
Finding the right who starts with the interview process, but it ends with culture. So if you don't have proper leadership structure and culture internally, you can find the best who, and it will not be optimal. Yeah, that person may stick around, but it may not be optimal. And I always say that, and there's two types of leadership. There's the old control and command leadership. Hey, this is what you need to do 40 hours a week. This is what expected. And then they're guided around that framework. The trust and inspired way of leadership is much, much different. Okay. If you're in the control and command, you may get a good employee. In my opinion, you will not get a great team member in the control and command. Trust and inspire, you'll get great people. And I'm blessed to have all great people here. Now, you can find all the great who's you want to plug in, but if you're plugging into a system of disarray, lack of structure, bad communication, no accountability, things like that, you're going to turn a great who into an okay who that may not stick around. That really starts with there's no bad teams, just bad leaders. As Jocko says, very true. It's your responsibility as the leader that the environment you build is aligned. So we have what I call, true alignment is when the vision of the firm overlaps with the vision of the team member. Right. And when that happens, that's when magic happens. And that's what I'm very lucky to have that here. But it really started with the way that I led. And that's one of the biggest problems that, Daren, you and I have seen in our mastermind groups and colleagues, and can't find good help. And I think more than half the time is the people that we know is that, oh, this person's safe for 3 months and then they're gone and we just can't keep them. It's not the people, it's the environment.
I've been in many groups. I guess I'm going to I've been in many groups with other advisors, and one of their constant complaints is, I hire this person and they just leave and da 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 da. And like, it's constantly, they're trying to find that right person. And you just want to say to that person, like, dude, it's you. Like, I wouldn't want to work for you.
It's about ownership.
Yeah.
So extreme ownership, how I feel about this book. I read it back in 2017. Every person that comes in this door, it's required reading.
Carm's infatuated with Jocko, by the way. Yeah.
I am. But again, it starts with my responsibility for setting that framework. And it's really on the advisor, on the owner to take ownership of, okay, hiring someone, I pay them, doesn't mean you're a leader. That does not mean you're a leader if you just pay someone and give them a quote unquote job. Give them a purpose. Give them contribution. But again, be intentional. We're in an interview process right now to hire another service team member. And we got the disc back today. So it was a conversation of me and executives here. Like, okay, great.
What was his disc?
It was, it was collaboration. Oh, shoot. I forget. I literally reviewed it this morning, but he's perfectly aligned with the role, which is great.
The CS is like, for those who don't know, DISC, there's D, I, S, and C, right? So D stands for dominance. And those are going to be like a Carmine and I are dominant people. Like, we're drivers, we're visionaries, we're constantly going. We couldn't even work with ourselves. Like, there's just like, it's kind of the alpha, stereotypical alpha. And then that I is going to be that person that just like talks, right? And talks. And they communicate, but they're like your people who are going to be pollinating. They'll walk into a room at a networking event and talk to everybody. And then your S are always going to be those apologetic. They're people pleasers. They want it to be right. And then a C is really conscientious, right? So they want that everything to be right, T's crossed, I's dotted. Right? And so when you're building an organization and who, not hows, you can profile out who people are. You have to be really careful depending on your labor laws, whether or not you can use a disc in a hiring situation. So I recommend you talk to an attorney before you do that. But there's certain types. So what Carm's explaining is this person who's a CS, we call them. A CS is someone that's highly conscientious and has a high desire to people please. They want to do, and they want the smiles from the people. Mm-hmm. Those are great service people because they want to please the customer, but they're also really attuned to details. So when we're hiring, we're looking and we're profiling in our minds, what's that CS role? And we call them CSAs, but CS role is that conscientious, service-minded human. Whereas like a lot of our advisors that work with us are DCs. They're going to be in the D and they're going to be the Cs. A really powerful combo partnership, if you're going to look to form a partnership with to advisors is a D and an N to C. If you have two Ds in partnership, it's probably not going to last. It will just,
There'll be friction.
yeah, there'll be power control, and you'd have to have really good boundaries and really good lines. So finding those who's and having some type of tool like the disc. I like the disc because it's simple, it's easy to understand. There's lots out there. Colby's a popular one. Myers-Briggs, another one. There's 1,000 of them. They all are getting at the same things. So being clear about what each role should be. In our organization, we literally have a wheel of everybody's disc. So at all our big meetings, we show everybody's disc and we talk about it. We're like, hey, Daren's a D. So guess what? It's going to be bullet points, and it's going to come quick, and it's going to come fast. And then you got like a Chris, my partner, who's going to be like, it's going to be an exhaustive list. He's a C. He's very conscientious. And so learning how to manage up, manage down, manage sideways, using those tools is really powerful.
Well, let's break who's down, and let's get one out of the way, because I'd rather spend time on the other. We have technology who's and people who's. So let's touch on technology who's real quick, because I think the people is going to take up a good amount of our time here, because I think that's probably there's more to it. But on the digital side, I came from an environment that had a very weak CRM and we can only use one. To today, if you're an advisor and your CRM is not the backbone of what you do every day with you and your team, please, I implore you to utilize one. It's made life so much easier between workflows with our service team members and everything. It's a when used properly, fantastic piece. It's a required piece of equipment to scale, no doubt. AI. You talk to different people about how they're utilizing AI, especially in our industry, you'll get a lot of different answers. The route that we're taking here, we're building out a full internal AI platform. And the why we're doing it is to get rid of low-level tasks that all of our team members are doing every day to enable them to be more strategic thinkers. That's the reason why Cornerstone is enabling AI. Between scaling and getting rid of low-level tasks, automation, it's not to replace any people on our team. It's to free up their time to do more strategic thinking. And I can tell you this, firms are building AI to replace advisors, to replace people, and that's their why. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think it could get rid of some roles, some remedial roles. But AI can't reason. AI doesn't have empathy. These are the things that AI lack, only people do. So I would strongly recommend AI won't put people out of business. I think people utilizing AI will put people out of business, and just be on the right side of that. So that's the tech side. Those are the two biggest that I can think of today. Daren, you have any other tech?
We believe we're tech forward, right? So I also do some consulting work with a group called Slant.app, where it's an AI native CRM. And to Carm's point, it's really clear, AI is going to change the face of our industry. Mm-hmm. And if you don't believe that, I highly recommend you do some research. So what is the response then to the change? Because you can't stop the change. So the question is, what's the response? And the response to the change is realizing that all this technology is going to enable more opportunity to enhance the relationship with clients.
That's right.
Right. So all the things that your people spend doing day to day that are administrative in nature, all of that stuff's getting automated. Regulations will slow it down some, but not very long. And then focusing as an advisor on how do you create relationships. So getting back to your who's, it's going to be even more paramount in the future that you're looking for people who know how to create and make great relationships. Because what's interesting is, if you look at that DISC profile and we go back to conscientious and C's, and we do tax filing and planning and stuff, and almost all of our tax people are C's. They're high C's. I mean, they're deep in the C, and they're very conscientious, but some of them really struggle socially. I mean, just their ability to interact with clients, their client mannerisms, their client bedside manner, more or less, is really a weak spot. What we've done in our tax business is it's set up now where if Carm's a client, Carm would go online, he'd fill out something. The AI would ask him all the questions about W-2, 1099, Schedule C, Schedule F, whatever. Carm will then upload his forms as he's going through that. The AI is going to take that, it's going to ingest it, and it's going to actually put it into the tax return for us. Then we're going to pay the CPA or the EA. They're going to look at it and review it and make sure it's correct. But it used to be, a human was taking all these forms in, and then they would process the forms and do the calculations on a calculator. And like that's just gone now, and it's going to be even gone in the future. And so what that will free up is the CPA to actually do the relationship piece, the CPA to actually engage with the client and say, hey, next year, if we do this, we can help you. That's what I think's headed for our industry. And so when we're looking at the hues now, we are literally with my chief operations, we've been talking about recruiting from local hotels because we're looking for the concierge mentality.
Interesting.
Which is totally different than it was 5 years ago, right? Like 5 years ago, you wanted the person that could crunch numbers, the person that was money oriented. We don't want that anymore. We actually want the person who's really people oriented. All the technology can crunch the numbers, do the filings, et cetera, et cetera. It's all about relationship now. 3 to 5 years from now, our businesses are going to be so vastly changed that people who think they're going to have a business who are sitting there trading stocks and bonds or completing tax returns by hand are straight head under a rock in the sand. It ain't happening.
Yeah. So those are your digital who's, and there's plenty more. Performance reporting. We can go down that rabbit hole, but we're not tech. We're not tech people. We're people. So let's get to the human who's. Now, the first one and most important for any advisor that wants to scale is an EA, an executive assistant. You can get the framework on how to hire and what they should do for you on the daily. Buy Back Your Time is a great book. Gives you a really good framework.
Dan Martell.
Thank you, Daren. Great book. He puts out I think he's got a podcast. He puts out videos. Great stuff. But that book will give you a framework on how to hire an EA. And I would tell you just a couple things, again, high level: scheduling, client communication, travel, your meals, and I'll tell you this, the biggest thing is email. So if you're an advisor that wants to scale and you're managing your own email, you are 10 steps behind. Okay. Email is a to-do list that you allow the public to populate for you. Okay. Now, if there's someone listening that doesn't have the revenue or doesn't have the staff person, or maybe your EA's part-time, look into a technology that can do that for you. We use SaneBox here. SANE box works great. How it can keep you to a zero. The whole point is to get to zero inbox. It's an AI-enabled tool that learns your emails, and you can train certain emails to go in certain folders, and it's a great piece of technology. So that should be first. If you have an assistant, make sure you're utilizing that person to the fullest. Because I've seen people with staff, and I see them still doing low-level items where the staff, their EA could be doing that.
To that point, I don't have this on my Microsoft yet because we're going through a bunch of compliance checks before we're going to let email box get organized by AI kind of thing. But I do have it on my personal. And for example, so on my property, I've got a barn, and the barn got a bunch of mice and rats in it like barns do. And I needed to get them all cleaned out, right? So cleaned out the whole barn, and then I wanted the pest company to come in and set up a bunch of traps and get the thing ready. And I had like 2 or 3 emails in response to the pest control company. And every single time this service on my inbox would read it, contextualize it, and would craft the emails even better than I could.
Oh, isn't that great?
And it was crazy. And all I do is press send every time. I never wrote anything, which is crazy. We do that in the Slant app, which is that advisor AI native, where you can literally go in there, and I could query like Carmine's profile in there, and I could say, hey, when was the last time I met with Carmine, and what were the action items we took out of that in common language, natural language? And the AI will scan his profile in the CRM, say, well, you talked with Carm last time and it did this, this, and this. and these were the things you did, and you said you were going to follow up at blah, blah, blah. Would you like me to craft you an email to schedule a follow-up? And I say, yes, please. Crafts the email, puts it in my drafts. Boom, all I press is send. Insane. The other thing that we're enabling, which is crazy, is we're able to scan all of the reviews that were done for each client, right? That's a really big thing for the SEC, and be say, hey, these 5 people haven't got a review. You need to reach out now. And just like all those automations make it so much more functioning from a day-to-day operational standpoint. We're doing a thing now where you can ingest in the fee agreement. It will look at what was charged. It will review the client's account and make sure it's being charged accurately, which is a huge compliance risk.
That's all manual work.
Yeah, it's all manual work for fee audits, and all of that's getting completely turned on with AI. So that's just going to free up more assets in the company to be able to go and talk to people, spend time with people, and help people.
So the next person, so EA is standard. That's table stakes, right? As your organization grows, you're going to need a COO or an integrator, or they actually run probably both roles. Where if your firm is growing, you're scaling, you're becoming the visionary, you're going to come up with a lot of ideas. This new technology, or my part, like we're doing a rebrand, great. And you need to get these ideas out of your head onto a whiteboard, onto something, and you need someone that's going to grab it and run with it. Okay, and that's the role of the integrator. Visionary is visionary, 30,000 foot, where the industry's going, should we enable AI, all these things. Okay, great, but you need someone to then go run these projects. And the integrator is who really takes that 10x vision and turns into, hey, these are the first 5 steps. Okay, these are the who's we need to pull this off.
So time out. So what Carm just did is he mixed who, not how, science of scaling, 10x is easier than 2x. And then he just put in EOS for you.
Yep, I did.
Right? He just said integrator, which is a term that comes from the entrepreneurial operating system, where you learn how to work together with visionaries and integrators. So there's another book for the system you're creating for scaling, right? So we've got who, not how, science of scaling, 10x is easier than 2x, and then EOS, and Rocket Fuel is the name of the book that you got.
It's actually Traction by Gino Wickman. Yes. Rocket Fuel's his second book. Both great reads. And by the way, if you didn't notice that, we are both avid readers, and leaders are readers. I can tell you this, but my greatest ideas have come from reading.
For sure.
So that COO/integrator role is, if you want to scale, this role again is just super. Those 2 roles will really catapult you to the next level. This role, the next role we're going to talk about, is a servicing advisor. Now, I've been through this. I have multiple. Daren's got multiple. And what this does is, we talked about in our last episode, setting a floor. Okay, so let's just say, for instance, when I was still working with clients, my floor was a client needed to generate $20,000 in revenue. Whether it's planning fee, AUM fee, didn't matter, just $20,000 a year in revenue. Okay, but now what happens if someone that $10,000 a year in revenue gets referred to me? Now, my servicing advisor, he has a floor. So I would do the intro call, and then I say, okay, great. Tyler's going to reach out to you, onboard you, walk through strategy, and then I'm out of the picture. I'm not that person's lead advisor going forward. My servicing advisor floor is $7,500 a year in revenue. So that servicing advisor will take that, and then Tyler is responsible. He's lead advisor. For my retirement plan book, I have a servicing advisor there running that, and I'm very hands-off with that as well. If you want to grow and scale, these are important who's that you need to bring on board when you create that client avatar. But there's still business that comes into the door that you may not want to say no to, or that are still profitable to the firm. It's just not someone you're going to work with directly. But it's very important. I said this, Daren, I think I said this to you too. Like, the organization will not grow unless everyone's floor gets raised. And that's why your servicing advisor should also have a very well-defined floor. And I usually use revenue as that. Look, the revenue's got to be at least this. To work with Tyler, it's got to be at least this to work with me. Daren, any tips on how you utilize your servicing advisors?
I mean, yeah, we do it slightly different because we're not necessarily doing it. I guess we are doing it by revenue. We're also doing it by need. What was really important for us was for scaling, we knew there was these 3 clients we were targeting that we wanted to work with that had a unique need that all kind of overlapped. Uh, and then what we did is we brought in another associate advisor to work with any of our kind of generalist clients so that the whole team, there's 5 of us on my team that can just focus on these 3 clients and bringing them in. And so what we're doing is we're meeting with COIs, CPAs, attorneys, talking to them about the unique solution set we have for them, and then getting those referrals coming in the door. But we're solely focused on this profile that we've identified. So I think for the service advisor, it's really making sure that you free up your advisors that are your growing advisors so that they have time to go close business and grow. So I looked at it more from a needs standpoint versus a revenue standpoint.
So look at it this way. We talked about an EA, a COO/integrator, and a servicing advisor, all three of these people.
Yeah.
What do the 3 things that these 3 people have, the common byproduct of their presence in your firm? It's all about freeing your time up. Freeing your time up to do what? Take on more clients? Not necessarily. Set aside time for strategic thinking. And that's one thing most advisors don't do, is they don't work on their business, they work in their business. And I've always said this, it's like working on a car with the engine running. You have to shut the car down in order to work on it. Go detach. Read this book called The Road Less Stupid. It talks about how to actually schedule strategic thinking time throughout the week. Okay. Warren Buffett spends about 5-6 hours a day reading and thinking. That's the one thing that lacks here, is that usually, because we're so intertwined with the day-to-day business, if you had a COO-integrator running these projects, servicing advisor handling a lot of your clients, I went from almost, not counting my retirement plan book, 190 plus households down to 20. What did I do with my time? It increased my ability to work with the advisors at Cornerstone to help them grow. That was the whole point. Use this as increasing your time to then strategically think and go down the 1 or 2 pathways that can help you to scale. Because if you're still in the weeds, handling a client review that doesn't even meet your floor, you'll never get that time back. So the sooner you can build out this team to free up your time, the sooner you're going to scale.
So Carm, we're going to leave it there. There's so much more we could say, but I think you summed it up pretty well. Feel free to reach out. Carmine and I are always happy to help people and talk through what we're doing to be successful. We hope you've enjoyed this 5-part series on how to scale your advisory business, and wishing you the best of luck in your endeavors. Take care.